We are, in fact, rolling, and it is Finish Strong Friday, guys. So welcome to everyone, members and guests alike. We've got a very exciting topic to discuss with you today. At least I'm really excited about it. We're going to pick up, go a little bit deeper on what we talked about last week. Welcome, Olga.
Hello there.
How are you?
Good.
I'm going to go ahead and mute you for right now because I'm just getting started here. So, oh, there we go. You did it. Gotcha. All right. So my name is Jeffrey Howard. You can call me Jeff. My friends do. We do these calls every Friday. It's generally called a success call. We do those 5 days a week at this time, 2 p.m. Eastern time. And typically success calls are about motivation, mindset. And we call this one Finish Strong Friday because we want you to do exactly that. We want you to end your week with, feeling like you've tied up everything you needed to tie up in your business. Go into the weekend feeling strong, feeling good about where you're going with everything. And typically we focus primarily on mindset. And so, what is mindset? Well, mindset is pretty much everything in the world of personal or business success. Everything, success or failure, happens really primarily between your ears. But today, instead of just talking about mindset and motivation, we are going to actually give you some strategic and tactical tools that are going to help you to enhance your relationships across the board. And we're going to specifically focus on applying this to a sales model because essentially that's the business that we're in. Whether you realize it, know it, agree with it or not, you're involved in the sales world. And one of the things that we always mention to people too is that you're pretty much in sales if you're a human being walking the earth. If you're in a relationship or married, you're certainly in sales. If you have kids, especially teenagers, you're either selling or being sold to perpetually. And it's a communication game. It's always about human interaction. So before we jump into that, I'll just give you a little background for those of you who are guests or new to our Friday trainings. My name again is Jeffrey Howard. Please call me Jeff. That's what my friends call me. And I've been involved. I'm a VIP mentor here at 8 Figure Dream Lifestyle. Been involved with the business now for about 17 months. I've done very well with it. It's one of several businesses that I'm involved in. I have a coaching business as well that I've been building a brand around that for about 18 years. And last week, I actually just celebrated my 22nd anniversary since the last time I fired my boss. So a long time on the entrepreneur roller coaster, a lot of ups, lots of downs, lots of in-betweens. I've had maybe 30 different businesses I've been involved with over that period of time and have been what I call successful in 9, and success is just a number in this case. Right now, success is really more about time freedom for me. But in a number form, success is 6 figures or multiple 6 figures. And the last 5 in a row have been 6 figures or better. So I feel like I'm getting the hang of it enough to maybe share some of these ideas and concepts with other people. And I'm really glad you're here for that. So I'm a single dad. I've got 4 boys, still only just one at home, still a 16-year-old teenager at home. And had a pretty colorful past in the music business and all kinds of different things before moving into the entrepreneur world. So let me pass this over also to my partner, my business partner, accountability partner, and my good friend, Eric Jacobson. I want to let him introduce himself as well, let you know who he is, and then we'll get rolling with the program.
Hey, everyone. Welcome. My name is Eric Jacobson. I live in St. Paul, Minnesota. Been married for coming on 28 years, have a 15-year-old son at home, been involved with 8 Figure Dream Lifestyle for about 18 months. Done extremely well here. Had some ups and downs, just like everything. It's an entrepreneur's world for sure, but excited to get into what we're going to get into today. So I'm going to cut short my introduction so that we can jump right into it.
Right on. Okay, Eric. Cool. Well, thank you and appreciate you being here. And I want to reach out. I want to welcome any of our guests that are here. I know we have at least one guest. And Olga, you're a new face to me, but I don't know. Maybe you can type into the chat. Let me know. Are you a member? And if so, for how long? Yes. What'd you say, Eric?
Yes. Hi. Sorry. Yeah. I'm actually a newbie, but not a newbie. I've been with the company for about 3 months now. Okay. I'm originally from the Caribbean, but I've lived in Miami for over 16 years. And then now I'm actually in Europe. My family lives in Amsterdam and in Belgium. So I get to travel full time and take my business with me everywhere. I also have a coaching business on the side, holistic health coaching, and I do workshops around the world. So I decided to sign up to this community so I can get some extra supplemental income while I continue to travel. Been about in the entrepreneurship for about 2 years now. So I'm still a newbie, learning as we go, but very happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing that information. And yeah, you're definitely one of, we're like peas in a pod here. Sounds like we have a really similar background, but how cool is it to be able to just have that mobile, what we call the laptop lifestyle, take your business anywhere and be able to do it from wherever you are.
Exactly.
So thank you for sharing that information. And, all right, well, let's go ahead and roll into this. Again, Fridays, we're typically all about mindset. And, I was thinking about it, pretty much everything is mindset. Like, it doesn't matter, whatever you're doing tactically, strategically, it's all about a frame of mind. And what I want to do is I want to provide you with some tools today that are a little more practical in nature, and it's going to help you to interact with other people in your life, but particularly other people in your business. We talked about this last week. So those of you who were on the training last week, we got into the entire topic was about personality. We spent the first half talking about how to generate how to create or develop a more pleasing personality based on Napoleon Hill's concept. And then the second half, I introduced you to a personality-based communication system that we call BANK, B-A-N-K. It's an acronym for the 4 different personality types as is indicated by this particular program. So I wanted to go into this more, and here's the reason why. Last week, when I got off the training, literally half the people that were on the training reached out to me personally and said, how can I learn more about that? How can you teach us more about, what do you actually do with those tools? Once you understand more about the particular person, how do you, better communicate? How do you manage your sales presentation better along that line? So a couple of people went through a more detailed assessment. And I just thought, well, you know what, just to be able to tie these together, because we do record everything, we can have part 1, part 2, and we'll really take a deeper dive into exactly how you can use these tools. So just out of respect for the people who weren't here last week, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through some of the basics first. And so some of this will be repetitive for those of you who were here last week, and then we'll get into some of the deeper stuff. So I want to just jump right into it. So let me share my screen here, one of my many screens. Let me make sure I get the right one. All right, my presentation just took over my screen, so let me do it this way. Okay. So I'm hoping that you can see my screen now, and there we go. All right. Am I pretty much full screen here with you guys?
Yep. Good to go.
Okay. Cool. All right. So we're going to talk about, again, it's BANK. So BANK is an acronym. Again, I'll get into what the B, A, N, and K stand for in a minute, but I want to share with you a little bit more how it works. So BANK is one of the real powerful pieces about BANK is that it's personality based, but it's really people focused. It's people centric, but it's also profit driven. So it's about helping you to make more sales at the end of the day. So for those of you who've been around any type of personality, we'll talk about that. We'll put that in context in a minute. So what I want to do is, in a very short period of time that we have here, we're going to do our best to get into the mastery of the science of communication, communication, negotiation, and the ability to close more sales. Now, there are many people out there who have a natural resistance to sales or being a salesperson. And we've actually had an entire training around that concept as well. But as I said earlier in the call, for those of you who might not have heard it, it jumped on, a couple minutes in, you're in the selling business regardless of what business you're in. Your sales is simply the conveyance of an idea. It is really, bringing somebody around to a different way of thinking. It is being persuasive. Again, if you're in a relationship, if you are married, you're in a selling environment in some way. If you have kids, if you have, especially, those of us who have teenagers know that mostly we're being sold to all the time. So, but in a true sales environment where this is about like your income is directly correlated to sales, then at the end of the day, you want to make more sales. So what would it mean to you if you could increase your sales and productivity by even one more sale, 100% or 200% or 300%? And that's what I want to give you the tools to work with today. I don't know why I'm getting these marks on the screen. So, all right. Let me hold on just one second, guys. I'm just going to see if I can erase whatever's going on here. I think I somehow made a little mark on the screen. Anyway, all right, I want to encourage you to take good notes, as I always encourage you to do whenever you're on any of these trainings. There's going to be a lot of great information, and I'm going to go really quickly with it. So I want you to grab as much as you can. And again, Eric, do you know how to, at first, I don't even know how I got that mark on the screen, but do you know how to erase that? Do you know how the whiteboard tool works?
I think someone else put it there by mistake. So
I wonder how someone else could actually do that. Oh, here's the eraser. Let's see if I can do this. Zoop, zoop. Oh, there we go. Got it. Don't we just love technology? Okay, so take good notes and let's rock and roll. So you guys are familiar with Les Brown, I'm sure. He's a world-renowned motivational speaker, coach, best-selling author. He's been a strong endorser of Bank since the very beginning. By the way, the reason I was introduced to it is it just came across one day. I'm very interested in personality typing, and I've done a lot of work with DISC training and that sort of thing. And someone knew that about me and said, "Oh, have you ever heard of Bank?" And I started looking into it, and I realized that this was the first time that this concept of personality had been flipped, so that you're actually talking to the person at the other side of the table. It's really about them instead of about you. So this is something that Les Brown said about Bank. He said, "It's a game changer for every entrepreneur and sales professional. This system will strengthen your confidence and expand your selling, dramatically increase your income." So type into the chat, you guys, if you would be interested in dramatically increasing your income. Okay. If you don't know what the chat is, by the way, here you go. Let me do this so it's not private. This is the chat. Deborah said, of course, yes. Yep, everybody. So of course, yes. Absolutely. Me. Love it. Okay. That's awesome. Okay, so, all right, so let's get on into it. Get back to the right screen here. Okay, now why am I not working? Guys, I am having challenges with my technology here. Just give me
go on the eraser. Oh, no.
Okay, got it. Okay, so for those of you who might be thinking, well, this is just another kind of a fad thing or whatever, there's actually been quite a bit of research done specifically around Bank. There was actually a white paper that was commissioned and studied at the San Francisco State University, where they said the Bank Code assessment is quick, reliable, and a valid measure of personalities that predicts buying behavior and increases your probability of closing the sale. So basically, we can literally say that Bank predicts buying behavior. So it's pretty fascinating stuff. So why do we care? Well, we're in business, but effectively all business is a people business. Right? We're all in the business of people. We're all in the business of communication. As you guys will hear me share over and over and over, we're in a business of relationships, building relationships over time, building organizations and teams and community over time. It's all a people business. We may have all the best automation in the world. We may have the best tools in the world, but at the end of the day, we're still people that are interacting with people. So this is Brian Tracy. I'm sure you guys are probably familiar with him. It's just all business is a people business. So problem is, when you're dealing with people in a sales environment, the odds are against you. Now, most of us are taught that sales is what? What kind of game is sales? All right, somebody type into the chat. Tell me if you know what I'm talking about. It's a what game? Let me see if anybody hits it. It's a numbers game, right? Okay, so I don't see it in there, but sales is a numbers game. So if you collect enough no's, and you're finally going to get to a yes, right? There it is. Yep, numbers game, numbers. Got it. Okay, you guys, so look, let me just ask you, is there anybody out there who just loves to hear no? Like, you just go out there searching for no's? I mean, wouldn't it be better if you could potentially, I don't know how I just jumped to the end of my presentation here. That's crazy. All right, you guys. You know what? This is bizarre. I'm having a little trouble with my stuff today. Let me catch back up to where I was. Okay, technical difficulties. All right. All right, so there we are. So you have about a 4% chance, if you don't know what we're going to teach you today, you have about a 4% chance of getting your yeses and about a 96% chance of getting nos. So basically, what does that mean? That means for every 100 people that you talk to, about 4 are going to say yes, whether it's moving forward, whether it's buying what we offer, whatever it may be. So wouldn't you rather, instead of collecting a bunch of no's, just know how to beat the odds and get more yeses? Make a better connection with people and bring them through the system? Well, I know, of course, the answer to that is also yes. And if you learn to deliver the right presentation 100% of the time, then you are going to have a much better chance of getting that yes. And so what's the distinction? What is the thing that makes the difference? Well, what really makes the difference is understanding that, in fact, there are 4 different personality types. Now, there's a lot of different tools for assessing personality. Again, this is one version of this, but what is unique about this particular methodology is that it is focused on understanding the person that you're speaking to. Now, we naturally default to our own personality type. So this is our 4 personality types we're going to talk about here: blueprint, action, nurturing, and knowledge. BANK, blueprint, action, nurturing, and knowledge. So if you're an action personality, you're going to be, like really high energy. You're going to be into really cool things. The cool factor is really important to you. And if you're speaking to somebody who's a blueprint or basically on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you're likely to turn that person off. And you may find that even as I begin to teach you about some of these things, that you have memories of situations where all of a sudden, things seemed like they were going along just fine, and then boom, it just sort of fizzled. So we'll talk about that. Now, this whole concept of personality typing, this is not a new thing. The first person, at least in recorded history, that we know about was Hippocrates, who was the father of medicine, and he used something called the 4 temperaments to analyze people in his medical practice. And that goes back to 400 BC. So again, this is not new stuff. In fact, most people that I know have taken some type of a personality assessment. So type into the chat if you have, in fact, taken a personality assessment of some sort. And if you don't mind sharing which one, I'd love to know that too. There we go. Okay, so like I said, I've done a lot of work with the DISC profile. That's very common. So there's DISC, there's the Keirsey temperament sorter, Myers-Briggs, the MBTI, the color codes. There's several different versions of color coding. There's the animal codes, lions and tigers and bears, or lions and otters and dogs. So Richard says DISC, Myers-Briggs, color code, Myers-Briggs from Eric. Harvey says several, DISC, color, islands, lands. Okay, I haven't heard that one before. Interesting. So like I said, there's a lot of stuff out there. So, what's really brilliant about personality testing is that people love it because it talks about what? It talks about you, like you are your favorite subject. And so is anybody that you're talking to, they are their favorite subject. So it's fascinating stuff. You learn things about yourself. You learn how to grow from that. You learn how to, really what style of things you need to have in your life to make a better life. You need all of those things. Okay. But how does that help you in business? How does it help you to interact with other people? So really what we have here with Bank is kind of like the missing link, right? So if you can understand how to, what we call, crack the personality code, then you will be much further down the path toward making the connection that you need to make with an individual person. And again, this isn't just about sales. This is about your relationships. All of life is about relationship. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you're in a sales environment, a parenting environment, a friend's environment, social networking environment, whatever it is. And all this stuff, it works in all those environments. So we use the term cracking the code. So you want to crack the person's code. Here's where the analogy comes from. Type it in the chat. Let me know. Have you seen the movie The Da Vinci Code? So the Da Vinci Code, you had this thing called the cryptex. There was this sort of magical scroll that was inside of this device called the cryptex, and you had to get just the right combination in order to open up the cryptex and get to the code, which was something to do with the Holy Grail, I think, or it was mapped to the Holy Grail. I can't remember exactly what was inside there, but basically this was like the magic code, right? So if you had the magic code, for example, to your prospects' heart of hearts and the best way to communicate with them, would you want to have that? So here's the problem though. If you come up with the wrong code and you open this thing up, it would inside the cryptex, it would crack this little vial of, I think it was vinegar, and it would just dissolve the words and the paper that was that the scroll was written on. So again, you may be able to think back on a time when you were in a conversation, or it could have even been further down the line of your initial conversation. You had a connection with somebody, you walked them through the script, you sent them over to a webinar, and then you were following up and everything was going just fine, and you felt like you were connecting, and then all of a sudden something happened. Like something shifted and you almost just could feel the sale fizzling away, right? Well, a lot of times that has to do with delivering from the wrong personality perspective. So we're going to show you how to do a little bit better with that. Looking to try to find, okay. I'm just trying to keep the controls muted here as well. Okay, guys, so most common mistake. Now, we deliver the right script 25% of the time. Why? Because there's 4 personality types and you're one of those 4, and 1 out of 4 times you're going to match up with somebody who's like you. Okay. But that means that you're delivering the wrong script 75% of the time. So what if you could increase those odds? So, you're talking about a 1 in 4 chance of getting it right if you don't understand this stuff. And you're talking about a 3 out of 4 chance of getting it wrong if you don't understand what we're talking about here today. Tony Robbins said, let your prospect determine your presentation. Think about that for a second. Again, we default naturally back to our own style, our own personality. So if you can just make some minor adjustments to sometimes it's not even the words, sometimes it's just the way you deliver it. It makes a huge difference in your ability to connect with people. And at the end of the day, it's about connection and it's about relationship. I keep hammering on that because it's the most important thing in the world, as far as I'm concerned, is relationship. I think, great example for me is I have 2 people, actually 3 people in my business now, here with 8-Figure Dream Lifestyle, who I had been in conversation with for up to 3 years. I had a guy that just joined a couple of weeks ago I've been talking to for 2.5 years. Okay, well, if you recall from my introduction, I started 8-Figure about 17, 18 months ago. Okay, so I'm talking about a prospect that I connected with 2 businesses ago. Stayed in touch, stayed connected, the timing was right for him, and suddenly, we're ready to go because in 2.5 years, I built consistency and I built trust and I built a relationship with this person. Now, granted, it doesn't take that much time with most people, but sometimes it does. And if you just kind of sort through people like they're a piece of meat, that it's not going to work for either one of you. If you just got going through the numbers to get to that one person who's going to buy, well, of course you have to go through your numbers, but if along the way you can build relationships with people that you want to work with that are qualified to be involved with your business based on the people you want to work with, then you're going to have much greater level of success over time. All right, so let's talk about bank and we'll get into some of the details. So again, the 4 personality types and using this assessment tool is blueprint, action, nurturing, and knowledge. Bank, B-A-N-K, blueprint, action, nurturing, and knowledge. See if I can find where the noise is coming from, guys. Well, for some reason, I'm not seeing it. Oh, there it is. Okay, good. Okay, cool. So what does this all mean? And again, once you master this, I just want to reiterate this point. You have the potential from going from 1 out of 4 to even as much as 4 out of 4 in closing, which you make the right connection with the right person and they're qualified to be involved with what we do. You know, Salesforce.com, which is a huge company that does a lot of data research, they have determined that 66% of people are turned off by a sales presentation. That's crazy. I mean, the people that we're talking to, in theory, are interested in making more money, interested in having more time freedom, interested in enhancing their retirement, you know, whatever their motivation is. Every one of them should be interested in hearing what we have to say. Wouldn't you agree? Doesn't that make the most sense, that everybody who even is a prospect, is on a lead list because they're searching for something, would be really interested in hearing about this? So what is it that would cause 66% of those people to be turned off? Well, let's talk about it. So we're going to break down the 4 different personality types, and we're going to start with the blueprint. All right. So the blueprint, as you can see here, you know, we're going to use an analogy of a box. Okay. So in the lower left-hand corner, you can see that there's a box, right? So if you're imagining being inside or outside the box, what do you think, just by thinking about a blueprint, just thinking about the idea of it, and look at the little icon on the lower right here, you know, look at those kind of tools. Just what do you think about a blueprint, just without knowing anything in detail yet? Is the blueprint more inside the box or outside the box? Type it in the chat, please. Inside the box. Systems in the box, says Richard. Yeah, so you're both right. Yeah. So definitely more in the box. So let's look at the value system of a blueprint. So there are 12 values that have been determined for each one of these personality types. And these are the 12 for the blueprint: stability, structure, systems, planning, processes, predictability, responsibility, duty, rules, credentials, titles, and tradition. So, you know, it sounds, you know, very like, so here's the interesting thing. For a blueprint, this sounds like, yes, that makes me feel really good. If you are a blueprint type personality and you're reading these things, you're like, oh yeah, that's the way life should be, right? But if you're a different type of personality, you're thinking, wow, that sounds pretty rigid, or, you know, really structured, or, you know, and this is the thing, though. You have to understand what's important to you may not be what's important to other people. So an example, and here's where you can really kind of, where the rubber meets the road when you're having conversations. Most of the people that we talk to over the phone, right? I don't do a lot of face-to-face one-on-one meetings. I do Zoom face-to-face meetings, but for the most part, we're talking to people over the telephone. So how can you begin to know who these, you know, what the personality type is of this person? Well, the first thing you can do is you can ask questions. So one of my favorite questions to ask is really simple. It's kind of an icebreaker, and it also will give you a lot of information because it's designed to elicit the pain point of that particular person. The question is this: what has you looking at new opportunities at this point in your life? Or opportunity isn't necessarily a fabulous word to use for a blueprint if you don't know who you're talking to yet. What's got you looking at new ventures? What caused you to be interested in what you saw from us initially? What's got you looking? And what they're going to give you as an answer is going to help you a lot to start down the path of what type of personality you're dealing with, but it's also going to provide that, I call it the pain point. So that somebody's going to say, wow, I'm just really tired of my job. I've got to get out of my job, or I'm never going to make enough money there. I'm totally capped. Obviously money, time with family, those are the kind of answers that we typically get. So then our goal is to structure our presentation to be a solution to that person's problem. Okay. So we're all about problem solving. That's what we should really boil this down to. It's about problem solving. So you can ask, what does somebody do for a living? So typically you're going to find a blueprint in an occupation like in accounting, or sometimes teachers, lawyers, managers, officers, like police officers, Not so much the fireman type either, you know, like somebody who's going to dive into a fire is a little bit less, a little bit more risk tolerant, let's just say, right? So, but a police officer tends to be someone who can appreciate all those values that we saw. If you want to just kind of paint a picture in your mind of what a greeting might look like between a blueprint, or the way you might want to greet a blueprint if you ever do have a face-to-face meeting, it would be your standard handshake, you know, just a good, firm handshake. And, you know, I know we talked about this a little bit last week, you know, if you've ever shaken someone's hand and you get that kind of, you know, cold, fishy little, you know, like loose handshake. I mean, it's really, it's like, that's like, it just makes me kind of, it turns my stomach a little bit even to think about it now. So, you know, one of the first things I taught my boys when they were growing up is how to give a good handshake. It makes a big difference. So, but with a blueprint, you're likely to be looking at a standard handshake type of a greeting. So, and again, most of the people that we meet, we don't meet face to face. The idea here is to paint a picture for you as to what type of personality you're dealing with, and what, you know, just bring the full circle around your, you know, connecting with a particular individual. All right, so let's move into some sales tips for a blueprint. So with a blueprint, it's really important that you be professional, organized, and on time. In a blueprint's mind, on time is actually late. So you want to consider being a little early to the appointment. You definitely don't want to be late to the appointment. If you have a phone appointment with someone, and I always encourage everyone to make sure that you have an appointment for your next follow-up before you get off the last call. You say, I'm going to call you, you know, Monday at 11. You better be there Monday at 11 with a blueprint. You should always be there for everyone. That's just basic respect, but it's especially more important with a blueprint. You can blow the whole deal just by being late for an appointment. Now, granted, things happen in life, and if you know for some reason that you're going to be late, you want to give them a ton of notice about that. You know, I'm sorry, I've had something come up, one of my kids, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to be about 15 minutes late. Is that okay? Ask permission. You also want to make sure that you have a step-by-step plan that you can give them. This is one of the beautiful things about what we have here with 8-Figure Dream Lifestyle, is that we have a blueprint. We have a step-by-step process. So you want to make sure to emphasize that in your conversation. You don't want to be too pushy, and you don't want to exaggerate. They're going to want to make their own decision, and they're going to want to assess. You don't want to try to do a large amount of upselling. If somebody says, yes, I'm interested in getting involved, I would like to do the $6,000 level. You don't want to start pushing them to $12,000 or $21,000. Now, you might present why it's less of a risk to come in at VIP than it is to come in at the pro level, for example, but you don't want to push it. So they have keep in mind, a blueprint will have a budget, and they're going to want to stay within that budget. You're going to want to have all your facts straight, and you want to have your resources in place so you can show them proof to back up your claim. So you want to have resources like, well, if you say that we have an amazing community that's incredibly supportive, you're going to want to invite them to a call like this and show them for sure that that's the way we operate here in this community. You're going to, when you make claims about you know, success that other people have achieved, you're going to want to have a resource like our video channel. 8-Figure Dream Lifestyle RealReviews.com, you know, have the video channel there so that they can go and see that, in fact, there are a lot of people who have been successful here. You want to be able to show them a system for success. Again, that comes down to the blueprint, the step-by-step process. Show them the system, emphasize the system, focus on the system, and you want to minimize the risk to get involved. Blueprints tend to be risk averse, and so you want to minimize the risk. Harvey, you said 10:55. I'm not really sure what you mean by that, if that's a question. Or 10:55. Is that is that a 10 signal that I don't know?
11 o'clock. 11 o'clock's late.
Yeah. Gotcha. 11 o'clock is late. Right. 10:55.
You're either early or you're late.
Right. Oh, you didn't have the colon in there, so it's kind of threw me off.
Sorry.
Yeah. And Olga, what's the risk for 21,000? Well, I guess that depends on who you're talking to. To me, like the VIP level is the least expensive way to get involved. So you minimize your potential. So the risk to a blueprint in an environment like ours is that they're not going to be able to get their money back fast, or they're not going to be able to get their money back at all. So the $21,000 VIP level allows you to start to generate revenue, all of it, 100% of the revenue from day one. So that's the way that you could frame risk and have it be actually less risky to spend more money now than to have to come in later. Or again, budget, right? Think about budget. So if someone comes in at the $6,000 level in our program, they have to pay an admin fee. If you're going to bump them up to 12, they pay the $12,000 admin fee. When they want to upgrade to VIP, they have to pay the admin fee for VIP as well, which is another $1,495, right? Almost $1,500. So someone who's risk averse, focused and serious about the business would say, oh, well, it makes more sense because it'll actually be less for me to pay out in the long run and the potential for more profit. I hope that answers your question. Okay, great. Thanks. Okay, good. All right, let's keep moving. Actually, I feel like I'm going kind of slow here, but we only have about 20 minutes left. I'll go a little bit over if we need to. Okay, so I want you to just stop and think before we move on, though. Think about in your contact list of the people that you've reached out to, the communications that you've had so far, who might fall into that blueprint category. This isn't necessarily for you to share. It's just, I want you to stop and think about this. Did this, light the light bulb for you a little bit? And are you thinking of some people that, wow, I maybe need to go back and approach this person a little bit differently? So think about that. 2 words, less risk at VIP. Yes, Steve, thank you for that. I appreciate it. Okay, so let's move on to action. All right, so action. I'm going to move into an action type presentation for the action. Action is actually my number one. And now, by the way, remember, all of us are all 4 of these. It's just a matter of in what combination. And that's really the interesting part about all of this is when you really start to get in really deep into this and you understand all 4 personality types in the order, then all of a sudden you're really in the game. It really makes a big difference. So action, I mean, as you can imagine, all right, somebody's drawing on my screen again. Come on, man. Boop. See, I've got just enough blueprint in me to have that really bother me. So, all right. So let's talk about action. If I can get my mouse back. There we go. All right, so action. Let's look at the box again. Okay, look, in this particular illustration, lower left-hand corner, you're seeing a rocket blasting out of the box. So clearly, if I ask you, in or out of the box, is it action personality inside the box or outside the box? Pretty obviously, like way outside the box, like what the heck is a box, right? Nobody in action mode wants to be inside the box. So, typically you're going to find that the action personality will be in, I have the occupations next. So let's talk about the values. Let's talk about the values of an action. So freedom, flexibility, spontaneity, action, opportunity, excitement, attention, stimulation, competition, winning, fun, and image. So as far as occupations go, you might find action personalities as actors, athletes, salespeople, public speakers, entrepreneurs, a lot of coaches. And again, it's not limited to this. It's just, this is designed to give you kind of some perspective on where, if by what someone does, like when you ask someone what they do, they tell you, well, they're an aspiring actor. Well, there's just a pretty good chance that they're probably an A personality. So how do you want to interact with an A personality? Well, let's talk about the greeting. Again, this is just sort of an analogy in our case because most of our interactions are not face-to-face or in person. Although, a lot of people in our business do have a lot of face-to-face interactions and do business on a local level. But if you can imagine, like if a blueprint is like a firm handshake, what do you think a greeting for an action personality might be? Anybody want to venture to guess it and put it in the chat? Yo, yeah, that actually could be true, Deborah. That a stab on the shoulder, yep. Or all right, so here's kind of the classic, right? The high five or fist bump, right? You might see an action doing a fist bump, high fives, fist bump. Now that doesn't mean that an action is not going to shake your hand, but you definitely will take see a difference between an action's handshake and a blueprint's handshake. High five, yeah, good job, guys. Okay, so let's talk about sales tips for an action. So first thing is you want to be cool and dress to impress. Okay, so if you have designer clothes with labels that are obvious, or the Louis Vuitton bag, or whatever that might be, that would be if you know you're meeting with an action, that would be a good time to bust that stuff out. Okay, if you are an action personality, no question that you have stuff like that. All right, you want to be excited and enthusiastic. So upbeat, up tempo. Notice when I was talking about blueprint, I was keeping kind of more of a pace like this, right? Now I'm talking about action. It's like, yeah, rah, rah. You know, you really want to fire up, like sell the sizzle, sell the dream, right? Skip the small talk, get straight to the bottom line. Action personalities want to know the bottom line. They don't want to know all the details. If you start to give a long, drawn-out dissertation, even sometimes like sending them to it, wow, the webinar is going to be an hour long. Really? I need to take an hour. So here's how you would respond to that to an action, okay? And I've heard this before. Wow, an hour of my time. I would say, listen, here's the deal. I'm going to show you a way that you can make six-figure, multiple six-figure, maybe even a seven-figure income. All I'm asking in return is that you spend an hour understanding how it works. Cool? Simple as that. And I very rarely have anybody say, no, they're not going to spend that hour. You want to have a sense of urgency, you know, move things along. Click, click. I got things to do, places to go, people to meet. Time's a wasting here. Let's get on it. All right. Give the bullet points as much as you can. Again, sell the sizzle, sell the lifestyle, sell the dream. This would be a good opportunity for Olga to say, like she said at the beginning of the call, well, now I get to travel. I use the term laptop lifestyle. That's not what she said, but you know, I travel and I take my business with me everywhere. Okay, that's a really big selling point. I can do my business from the beach. In fact, as a matter of fact, I'm talking to you right now from I'm hiking up on the hill. This is how I spend my time. Let me find the noisy line and shut it down here. Okay, there we go. And yeah, so I'm up here right now, even doing my business while I'm talking to you. I'm up hiking up on in this beautiful park. So, you know, that's what I mean by selling the sizzle, the lifestyle, and the dream. You don't want to overload them with details, a bunch of charts, statistics, data, information. There's a time for that for other personalities, but that's not what you want to throw in an action, okay? And you also want to introduce them to other successful A-type personalities. You guys, what do you think Alex D is? Do you think he might be an A? Possibly. Okay. If you have a VIP on the line, you want to introduce, and they're an A personality potential. You have a potential VIP wanting to get involved with our business, and you think that they're probably an A-style personality. You want to introduce them to as many people as you can in our community who are living the dream. Okay. That would be a great way for you to help that deal. AAA Alex, says Steve. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So again, stop and think for a second of all the people that you've talked to. Go back through your contact list when we're done later and see if you can think of a few people that were A-style personalities, especially if you are not an A personality, an action. Think about those people and how you might go back and approach them. If they may have sort of dwindled off, what's the right term? They kind of, they got cool on you, or you're having a hard time getting a hold of them, and they're an A. Hey, we've got some really cool new things I wanted to share with you. Listen, I just have a minute right now. This is leaving a message. I just have a minute right now, but I wanted to share some really cool things that are going on with our business. Get back to me as soon as you can. Boom, quick, in and out. All right, so let's move on. Let's move into the nurturing personality, the N, okay? So going back to our box analogy, if a blueprint is inside the box and an action is outside the box, how do we refer to the nurturer? Well, the nurturer is really a person who would be most likely to recycle the box, okay? This is somebody who's very conscious. You can see that the icon that we use here is a sunflower. It's very, very warm and fuzzy, but don't let that fool you, all right? Here's the values of a nurturing personality. They're involved in relationships, authenticity, personal growth, significance, teamwork, involvement, community, charity, ethics, harmony, morality, and contribution. So these are all things that are very, very important to the nurturing personality. What type of occupations might they be in? Well, they might be nurses. And I don't know what it is, guys. I don't know if it's the same for you, but I talk to a lot of nurses home care people. They love helping people, but they're getting sort of such a physically demanding job. They're looking for new opportunities. I don't know why there's so many of them, but they tend to show up in our business a lot. So nurses, the people that work for nonprofits, social workers, life coaches. So not like a business strategy coach, but a life coach, somebody who is more of a counselor. And counselors would fall into that category too. Volunteers. So again, it's not cut and dry every time. It's just to give you an idea. Think about the answers to the questions that you're asking people. What do you do for a living now? Well, I'm a nurse working in a hospital, doing social work with, whatever, listen to the answers, because it's going to give you some clues as to how you might want to structure. Now with a nurturer, you're going to want to emphasize aspects about our community. All right. You want to invite them to be part of things like we're doing here today. Invite them to be part of our morning huddles, and, get them involved, get them connected directly. So, again, going back to our greeting, what do you think the nurturer's go-to greeting is, guys? I'll give you a second to type it in. I'm sure everybody knows this one.
It's a hug.
Hug me, yes, hug me. Give me a big hug. Yes, that's awesome. And was that Paula that just said that?
And a cup of coffee.
Yeah, sit down, cup of coffee, cup of tea. Sit down and talk to me. Don't start pitching to me. Tell me about you. Ask me about me. Show an interest. Those things are really important. And I think, Paula, even did you mention your nurturing was your number one when you took the assessment? Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. I could have told you that about you just from what little I know about you already. So, all right. So, yes, so it's the hug. And, it's something interesting that I learned from nurturers when I went through the certification training for bank is there's a certain way to hug too. There's a right way and a wrong way to hug, kind of like the cold fish handshake. I'd have to have someone here to hug to show you, but it's like really opposite for anybody who isn't a nurturer. It's opposite from what you typically would do. So the thing is, you want to align the heart. So whichever arm goes over the top to cause your hearts to align, that's the way you're supposed to hug. And actually, it does make a difference. It especially makes a difference with the nurturer. Now, once again, it is, we're doing most of what we do, not so much in person. But when we all go to the live event in June, then we'll be hugging, and we'll be able to share in that concept. So let's talk about the sales tips. So I want to be able to wrap this up with our knowledge personality. Okay. So for a nurturer, you want to be authentic and genuine. All right. You want to be real. You want to be, truthful about everything. You want to say what you're going to do and do what you're going to say. Be a trustworthy person with that. You should always do that anyway. But, again, this is nurturing personality cares more about that. Show them that you care about more than money, care more about them than money. So it's not just about the sale. You like them as a person. You want to connect with them. You would love to introduce them to members of our community. Oh, you'd be a fantastic mentor in our community. I hope you take the opportunity to look at those, what's available to you there. Introduce them to your team, other people in the group. Introduce them to meetings like this. Get them connected with other people in the group. They need that connection. Talk about the cause that you're passionate about and how they might be able to make a difference. So, for example, if you're speaking to a nurturer, you might want to speak to the fact that members of our community last year went to build houses for homeless people up in Seattle. Leilani set up that whole movement, and there's a community up there, a property, I guess, where they're building these little mini houses, like tiny houses, to keep homeless people off the street, not have to live in tents and whatnot. And so a lot of members of our community went up there and actually did that, built those houses. So that's really, that's the kind of thing that a nurturer is going to respond to. You want to always give big hugs, but you can also give like big verbal hugs too, use in your language, use language that's very open. And if you're speaking to someone, maintain good eye contact if you're in person, but if you're speaking to them over the phone, you want to, if you ask a question, you want to listen let them talk about themselves, let them explain to, what it is about their situation, and be very, compassionate about whatever they might be going through. Because remember, you're asking questions that are ultimately going to deliver their pain point. And with a lot of nurturers, they have a tendency to give themselves away. And so you want to be able to be relatable about that and show them how they can give back in the community, but still how it's okay for them to make money in the process. So again, stop for just a minute and think about the people that you've communicated with so far that, you've been able to connect with that maybe, are in the nurturing category, and how you might shift your communication with them moving forward, or even people on your team, guys. And it's not necessarily just about prospects, but think about who in your circle of influence, who on your team is a nurturer that might need to be treated a little bit differently, might need to be mentored a little bit differently. And it might not all be about, here's the right strategy to go out there and crush it in the business. It may not be that for that person. They may need to know that they're part of something bigger. All right, so let's wrap up here with the last one, one that's near and dear to my heart. I have a very high level of K, actually, but this is also one of the most difficult to read. It's not the most difficult to assess. It's one of the most difficult to sell to or to even communicate to. And there's some reasons for that. So that's the knowledge personality. So if you look at, again, our box analogy, if you look at blueprint being inside the box, action outside the box, nurture, recycle the box. Well, a knowledge personality invented the box. They designed the box. They created the box, okay? They're idea people. Their values revolve around learning, intelligence, logic, self-mastery, technology, research and development, science, universal truths, expertise, competence, accuracy, and looking at really the big picture. Now, I mentioned something about A's earlier, about action personalities, where you don't want to bog them down with facts and data and statistics and charts. You get a knowledge personality, that's exactly what you want to do. You want to load them up, all right? Load them up with data. You will never close a K. There's no magical closing tool to close a K. They will, however, close themselves. Here's what's frustrating for a lot of people about dealing with Ks, almost to the point where some people will just walk away from it and say it's not worth the trouble. Here's the cool thing, though. It's worth the trouble. These are great people to have in your organization, great people to have on your team that can be a huge resource for you, but they take forever to make decisions, typically, okay? Typically take a long time to make a decision. They will analyze all the data before making a decision. And then they'll come back and they'll close themselves on that. They typically are, we use the term smartest person in the room. They typically are the smartest person in the room. They know they're the smartest person in the room. They don't have a whole lot of patience or tolerance for people who are like A-style personalities. You come to a K with an A-style delivery and you might as well just shut the door. But you know what? It's typical of anyone and any two different combination of personalities. You come at it from a style that's not theirs. If you come at it as your default, if it doesn't match with them, you're going to end up blowing that out of the water. You very potentially can lose the opportunity to build that relationship. So typically what you'll find is these are engineers, scientists, programmers, analysts, researchers of various sorts. And, we joke about the Ks. Like I said, I'm not a knowledge. It's my first one. We actually have an assessment. It's like a 24-question assessment. You can determine at what level you are of each one of these things. And I have like very small difference between my top and my bottom. So I'm sort of interchangeable. We call it divergent, kind of like the movie. But, a lot of people will have a big gap between. So like some people, K is not only first, but it's just dominant and everything else is barely even there. And it gets a little bit more challenging. So what kind of greeting might you think would be for a knowledge personality? Well, we joke about this one, Spock, right? I mean, but if you think about the personality Spock, if you're familiar with Star Trek, that's kind of the person that we're dealing with. It's all very logical. There's not a lot of emotion. There's not a lot of, what other personalities would perceive as personality in that conversation. But the truth is that typically the best way to greet, if you were with someone who is a K, you would greet them by just handing them a business card. This is the way they do this. And, it's very interesting because I was at an event, was a kind of a programming related event, or had a lot to do with technology. And so there were a ton of knowledge personalities there. And almost to a T, they don't want to shake your hand. Not only do they do this kind of thing you're looking at on the screen right now, they push the business card into your hand and then push your hand away. They're not big huggers. Again, everybody's got different combinations, but, somebody who's a really strong K is going to kind of lean away from a lot of touch, a lot of emotion, that kind of connection. But as far as your selling tips and your sales tips, you want to be smart. You want to know your information. If you're not smart enough, if you don't think you're smart enough to have all the answers, then bring somebody else into that conversation. Get one of the mentors on the line, use the mentor tools, make an appointment with a mentor, get them on the line with somebody like this. Make sure you know your details. Have your resources and your documentation that you can provide them to study and take a deeper look at. They're going to want to review everything before they make a decision. Stay logical in your approach and don't get overly emotional or excited. Okay? I mean, you almost even want to deliver in more of a monotone type of presentation voice like this when you're talking to a K. You want to be able to debate or defend your product, your service, or your business. So in our case, you might get skepticism from a knowledge person who says, well, it looks to me like these products are just an excuse to drive a compensation plan. So you better have a story to back yourself up that says, whoa, wait a minute. No, these products are fantastic. As a matter of fact, let me share with you. I use the Facebook product myself. This is a real story. Okay. So this is how I would address that with a K. I would say, I used the Facebook product recently, and this is how I would deliver it. This kind of a tone, very matter of fact, not hype, not anything. So I use the data that I learned. Notice I just used the word data. I use the data that I learned in that course to apply to my personal Facebook brand page, where I started with 400, I wouldn't say approximately 400, I'd say 414 likes on my page. And I was able then to, within 6 days' time, increase that amount by applying these strategies and tactics and this system. I was able to increase that to 11,672 in 6 days. Very precise, okay? So that, and if you have doubt, again, bring somebody in the conversation who's already more of an expert than you, and ideally more of an expert than them, which will be tough because they will be experts at everything. You want to allow them to do their own research. You want to give them time to think about it. And also, like the blueprints, you're going to want to stay within a budget. They're very structured in that way. So once again, just stop for a moment, think about who you may have been in communication with or who is already in your circle of influence now who might be knowledge. Here's the thing about this type of stuff, guys. When you learn to crack the codes, you can take it to the bank, right? You can take it to the bank in your relationships. You can take it to the bank in literally in your financial world. But here's the thing. It's like anything else we talk about especially on these Friday calls. It all comes down to awareness. So right now, what I'm hoping, we literally cannot possibly get into all the details about this in just a short hour. But what I'd hope to do is to give you enough information so that you can start to become more aware of what's going on around you and what's going on in your world of communication. That's the whole purpose of this. Just by the simple fact that we've brought up, there's 4 different types and this is how they are. Now it's in your head. You're going to be thinking about this moving forward. You have an awareness that in fact there is a difference between me and other people that I'm talking to, or there's a similarity between me and the other people that I'm talking to. And you'll be able to use these tools and tactics to be able to build those relationships stronger and really help yourself to take it to another level, to really bring your game to another level, bring your business to another level. But again, it all comes down to people. It's relationships. It's people. So Steve, thank you. It's Jeffrey or Jeff, but yes, Jerry. We have enough Jerrys already. We don't need me to be one. But thank you. I appreciate that. Anybody have any questions? We're right at the top of the hour. We could wrap up if you want. If you have questions, typically people do, so I'm more than happy. You can unmute yourself. I can stay for a few more minutes, answer questions, or address anything. Crack the code, take it to the bank. Boom. All right. Thank you, Deborah. Appreciate it. You have a great weekend as well. Anyone else?
How can we get a hold of the assessments you were talking about?
I can send you one if you want to email me. I will put my email address. It's mastermindmentor@gmail.com. I'll send you the assessment and a little bit of an explanation on how to use it. So I just put my email address in the chat, mastermindmentor@gmail.com. All right. Questions, comments? Richard, you always have something to say. Why don't you, what are your best takeaways from today?
I think this is really important from a standpoint of, I just talked to one of my prospects, and golly, it was like I knew she was a nurturer, and it was kind of so quick to pick it up. Obviously, nurturers are right out there, so that was good. But no, it's powerful because, as Tony Robbins says, you got to cater your presentation to the prospect, and so I think you're running blind otherwise.
Right.
And, trying to do a canned presentation it's a numbers game otherwise.
Yeah. Well, it's there's a certain component of it being a numbers game no matter how you slice it, but what are you going to do with the numbers is what it boils down to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's intuitive, and it's awareness, and it's an intuitive process. When you know what to look for, it becomes really intuitive.
Right. Well, it makes it more of an interesting game. When you're making a phone call, I wonder what kind of person this is.
Exactly. I do it all the time. I think I showed you guys this last week. I've got these 4 colored poker chips. Olga, thank you. Appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. So I have these next to my phone, here at my desk. I'm on the phone, and as I'm talking to somebody, I'm sorting these. I've been through all the training and certified in all aspects of bank, and so there's a course that they call speed coding, which is really cool because you learn how to really get this stuff quickly. And so I just start sorting through. It's like, oh well, that person's definitely action first and nurturing, and I'm sitting here looking at these chips, and now I'm conscious I'm actually delivering my presentation in a completely different way because I've kind of assessed what that person's about.
No, that's good. That's good. I'll have to make up my own chips.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating stuff. Well, all right, guys. Anybody else have anything else before we wrap up?
Hey, Jim Rohn did a quick talk, about 15 minutes, on the different personalities. Mm-hmm. And he had 2 questions, and I've been looking for them for a few minutes, and I can't find them in my notes on my phone. But in that talk, he went through it, and during the course of your first 5 minutes of conversation, you can ask 2 key questions, and it puts the person on one side or the other of the graph that puts them in those 2 categories and gives you their top 1 or 2, so that just by asking those leading questions and letting them answer them, you get right into it. And you know exactly who they are.
Well, how you ask questions is really important. It's a good point, Harvey. The questions that you ask, first of all, it gets people talking about themselves. Once somebody starts talking about themselves, then you can start to kind of analyze, okay, well, who am I dealing with here? That makes a big difference.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, appreciate it, Harvey. All right, guys. Well, if nobody has anything else, then let's launch. It's Memorial Day weekend, guys. So I will be looking forward to connecting with you all again sometime next week. We will not be doing the Monday trainings. I'm not sure if I'm speaking for all the coaches, but I won't be doing my Monday morning 90-day strategy call. So because of the holiday. So you guys have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy the Memorial Day. Get yourself recharged and ready to rock and roll. We're pushing into summertime. So talk to you soon. Thank you so much for being here. Remember, #FSF Finish Strong Friday, guys. Take care. Bye for now.